Okay, so can people see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Digital Champions project. So my name's Janet Chapman. I'm the chair of Tanzania Development Trust, which is a volunteer-run charity that's been supporting grassroots projects in Tanzania for 45 years. I've been involved fairly much full time for the last about 9 years. And so in that time, I've been visiting projects in rural Tanzania, realized that the fact that rural Tanzania was very poorly mapped was a huge issue for many reasons. So about 5.5 years ago, I set up Crowd2Map, which is a volunteer-run project that is mapping rural Tanzania for better navigation, for community development, but also to help activists like Roby Samweli and others to help protect girls from female genital mutilation. So Tanzania Development Trust has local volunteer representatives in the areas where we work. So Roby, who is the director of Hope for Girls and Women, is the representative for Mara region. So Hope supports FGM activists, outreach work. So here you can see Roby doing outreach work in a village in Serengeti district. And Hope also runs 2 safe houses in Magumu and Butiama. And as everyone from Falco knows, it's the target project. But because rural Tanzania is very poorly mapped, girls and their parents or whoever is helping them can't easily find the safe houses, and safe house staff and the police couldn't easily find the girls because much of rural Tanzania looks like the map at the top. So it looks like that in Google Maps, and it also looks like that in OpenStreetMap, which is an open source map like Wikipedia for maps that we're using. So there could be up to 30,000 people living in that area shown at the top, but they're just not represented on maps. So there's been a lot of mapping in big projects funded by, for example, the World Bank in places like Dar es Salaam, because Dar es Salaam often floods. So there's been a lot of work going into that, and you can see the level of detail like you would expect in cities like London and so on, very well mapped. That's not the reality in rural Tanzania, as much of Africa. So activists and many people need maps. So, and we've been producing them. So for the last 5.5 years, we have a network of around 16,000 online volunteers now. So anybody with an internet connection can get involved. They can look at satellite images such as the one shown here. So you can see there is a road here that has been traced, and there's a building here that's been traced, plus some small ones there. And then there are 2 buildings that are still need to be traced, added to the map. So Herry and Courtney will show this later, but basically it's a question of drawing around things like this and then labeling them. In most cases, all we can tell from a satellite image that this is a building. Sometimes we have more information, such as government data about this is a school, this is a clinic, and in which case we can add that. So basically that's what the remote mappers are doing. And then we're also training people on the ground to use a smartphone app called maps.me to add their local knowledge. So in Serengeti district, we have a network of 87 digital champions, 1 in each village, and they are adding mapping their villages. And so here you can see people adding a water point. And also we've done training with the police so that they can use maps.me to route themselves quickly to wherever they need to go. So typically in the cutting season, which happens usually during the long school holidays, particularly in December, girls will be rounded up and subjected to FGM or cut. And during these times particularly, people in the village, like for example a teacher or sometimes even one of the parents, will phone activists like Roby and say girls are about to be cut tonight or tomorrow in Kabancha village. And before we started, it was very difficult for people to find those places quickly because there were no maps, there were no road signs, no street lights. So using something like maps.me can be really, really effective. It's also great because it works offline. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a data connection, which is a big issue in much of rural Tanzania. So you can download it and then it will work. And if you add places to the map, if you're offline, then once you get back online, that will be updated. So, as I said, we've been working closely with the police gender desk. So this is Sijali, who's based in Magumu, who's worked very, very closely with Roby over the years. So in 2019, Humanitarian OpenStreetMap had some money from USAID in a project called Women Connect, and some of that money went to Crowd2Map and Hope for Girls and Women to set up the original Digital Champion project. So that was $9,000 for training 87 women over a year, but we've carried on with that project because it's extremely valuable. And we're now hoping to roll it out into Butiama district next month. So in January 2019, at the beginning of this project, we trained the digital champions. So the digital champion was a woman who'd never used a smartphone before. She was selected by a Women and Children's Protection Committee in the village. That committee, their remit is to try and protect girls and women from gender-based violence. So part of the training was what is meant by gender-based violence and so on, and that was done by community social workers. But then there was also training about using a smartphone and mapping, and also using an app called ODK, Open Data Kit, to report cases of gender-based violence. So here you can see the Women and Children's Protection Committee looking at a map of their village that we've produced, and they're working out what's still missing. So this would be the first time that people had seen a map of their village. So as I said, the digital champions were selected by the village from the committee. And on the Hope website, I'll put the link in, there is a lot more information about them, including some videos about for these 4 digital champions. And as I said, this is an ongoing project. So this is the kind of form, this is what it looks like on their phone. So they can fill in a blank form and then send it to the Hope staff and also to the police gender desk and social welfare, who will deal with it. All of the digital champions were connected together in a WhatsApp group. So they had some initial training at the beginning of the project, some other training once budgets allowed, particularly in some entrepreneurship. But then a lot of the training and ongoing support was via WhatsApp. Also, Hope staff regularly go out to the villages for many reasons, to rescue girls, to follow up on girls there. So they then do ongoing training with the digital champions when they go back. And today, as I mentioned, they've been doing some training on an app called Plant Village Nuru. This was created by Penn State University in conjunction with many agricultural experts. And it's a free app that uses artificial intelligence to detect pests in maize and cassava. So this is, they've been doing a lot of training in Kenya, and I think this is the first place that they've been doing training in Tanzania. So they're with Hope for 6 days, I believe, doing training in 3 locations. So I was hoping that Roby might be here, but I don't think she is. But those are my contact details and Hope's details too. So that was just a brief overview of what we've been doing with Digital Champions. And then, so Herry, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, a little bit. I think you covered a lot of things that Hope and Crowd2Map are doing. So what I can just add there for the training on planting Noro, what they've done so far in the Matari village. So these farmers never had the opportunity to use technology in their life, actually using the smartphone. So it is the first time for them to associate agriculture with technology. So Prant Nuru from Kenya Dream Team organized the training with Hope for Girls to some farmers around Tanzania, and that would be they've done in Mgom Serengeti in the village called Matare, and we'll have another training in Butiama and another village called Kinyereli. So what what Pranolo does is detecting some pest and diseases in their farm, so that to make sure that the farm crop are growing very well and they increase the production of the crops in the farm. So it is a new technology to the farm, as I said earlier, but I think it has a very positive outcome from the perspective of the training today, and what can Plant Noro really help for those farmers around the villages, and the new experience to the farmer. So we just believe with this ongoing training from the app, as we know, many rural people from the village depend in agriculture, so it will help even in their daily life and improving their lives. So it's a really good stepping stone for all the farms around the Matari village to have this experience and to increase their production of their crops. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Herry. So Tareen has a question. Yes, most of rural Africa is poorly mapped. So there are many organizations mapping into OpenStreetMap. There is a huge community of mappers, people like Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders and so on. They are also doing a huge amounts of mapping. So there is, so often they do mapping after a particular disaster. So after an earthquake or a hurricane or something like that. But then many people now think that we need maps before that disaster strikes. So there is a partnership called Missing Maps that is trying to map all of these places that are not yet mapped. So Crowd2Map is part of Missing Maps. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions specifically about the digital champions, we'll go on to the practical session about getting started with mapping. So Courtney's asking about security concerns. So because the Safe House work very closely with the police, and they do have security at the safe houses, and they do have a fence and so on. There haven't been any issues around that. So Hope does actually want people to know where the safe houses are, so that people that need help can find them. Courtney, do you want to? Are you able to share your screen and talk us through the mapping bit, or do you?
Oh, I'm muted. Yes, I can do
Right.
that.
Fantastic.
Okay, cool. So let's go to, if you all want to open the website, www.openstreetmap.org in your browser. And I think, yeah, Janet, if you want to pop that into the chat, that would be great. Perfect.
So basically, to get started mapping on OpenStreetMap, you need to have an account first. So if you've already got an account, then great, but probably most people haven't.
Exactly. And you'll want to make your account with an email address that you can access right now, because you'll have to confirm that email address before you can move forward. So I will go ahead and log in to my account. And if anyone has issues creating their account or anything like that, just feel free to unmute. We can make this a very open, collaborative session. Sorry.
Can you repeat what the website is again? Because I can't see when I'm in another tab.
It's openstreetmap.org, or you can just type osm.org. Has everybody got that?
Yeah, I'm in.
Great. Okay. So also, I'm going to post in the link to the Crowd2Map Slack group. So if you're interested, I would really advise you to join this, because we have many things. We have more instructions. We have we have some quizzes about mapping, we have some badges, and also you can get feedback on your mapping from more advanced mappers. So I invite you to join the Crowd2Map Slack by clicking on the link in the chat. I'll also send it around later. Okay, thanks.
Wonderful. So I like to always have new mappers start out by zooming into the place where they live and trying to find their house or some other local building that you know of, a library, a supermarket, whatever that might be. So you can either just zoom into the map using the plus arrow here. You can also search for a location, and it has a pretty good search feature. It looks like my computer's freezing at the moment, but yeah, go ahead and try to find where you live on the map. Feel free to zoom in pretty far, and I'll work on my computer for a minute.
And then maybe when you found it, when you've zoomed in, if you want to, then maybe you can post the link into the chat if you want to.
My computer froze for a moment, so I'm now back again in OpenStreetMap. Courtney, sorry, just give me the instructions again on what I need to do.
Oh, sure. So first you would want to create an account.
Yeah, I did that.
You did that. Okay, perfect. So now we're just asking you to either zoom in or use the search bar to find the area around where you live.
And then maybe you can put the link to that area in the chat so that we can all have a look if you want. I've just put mine, which is in East London. Is your screen working now?
What I on my screen is it's what's on the map, basic terms for mapping. So I'm not sure where I have to get my address.
Okay.
Oh, there's it. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay.
How you doing, Courtney?
Oh, it's okay. It's a very old computer. I'm hopefully getting a new one soon. I'm trying to turn off my video to see if that will help. But I don't know if you want to take over momentarily, Janet. That might be good.
Yeah, or Herry, maybe. Herry, are you on your phone or a computer?
I'm on my computer, I can take over.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, go on then. So maybe you can show us where you are in Magumu.
Yeah, sure. Now I'm sharing my screen. Tell me if you can see my screen.
Not yet.
I think Courtney is still sharing her screen, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to stop.
Oh, okay.
But whoever the host is might be able to change it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's Herry.
Okay. If you don't have an account for OpenStreetMap, you always go to Google and write something like sign up for OpenStreetMap, and then or click for the sign up. I'm going to take you through the whole process, and then I think we're going to go to the start adding some features.
How many people get to get a? Sorry.
Come again?
No, I just wondered if everyone's managed to do this already.
Okay, so if you don't have an account, you will just have to come to the area where they write sign up. So if you press sign up, you will have to fill these informations like your email. You have to confirm your email. You have to write your display name that you want. You have to write your password, and you have to confirm your password again. Then you sign up. After signing up, they'll pop up some other window, ask you to add the location that you want to map, and you will answer that, and then it will pop up again to ask you if there are terms and conditions. You have to check them all, and then they will send you the verification email from your email account. So after that, then you have your OpenStreetMap account. After you having an OpenStreetMap account, then you can go to OpenStreetMap and then log in into your account and start some mapping. So I'm going to assume that you guys have already opened an account. And you've just filled all the email and everything. So they sent you an email and the link so that you can confirm you have an email, you have an OpenStreetMap account. Then I'm going to take you to the login process. So let me just go back to there. So you will have to, if you already have an account, you will just have to go to login. let's say it's my account name here, it's my password. I have to put my remember me, and then I will log in into OpenStreetMap account. Okay, so I guess here was where Courtney left us. So you can, if you're the beginner, this is the easiest way for you to map. So you will have to just search for your location, or you can zoom to the area that you are, like this one. You can use the plus sign up one, the zoom in tool plus, so you can zoom to the area that you're really interested, or your local area, the place that you live. Like right now I'm in Mugumu, so I have to zoom to Mugumu town. Here is my place. So zooming to this level, then I will have these options here, like there is edit, there is history, and there is export. So I will go to edit, and there is a drop down icon here. I will choose edit with ID or in browser editor, and then I will click this. You guys, are you following me? If there is a question, please ask. Or if I'm going so fast, please stop me and ask me. Okay, it will take some couple of seconds. So here is where I am. Here is Mugum town. So you can see there are some features that are already mapped here. So let me take you back to these tools here. So I have a plus sign, which is a zoom in sign, and I have minus sign, which is like zoom out, and I have the location showing my location. I can turn it on or just off because I'm using my computer. Sometimes it's like difficult to when I'm using a computer. And I have the background setting. This background setting allow me to change the background imagery. Sometimes if I click on the background setting, I have a different background. I have a Bing image, Bing aerial imagery. I have a Esri wild imagery. I have a Esri wild imagery. So you have different kind of background image. So when I choose, like, I want to see if where I am right now, I'm use OpenStreet standard to see where I am. So you can see this is really Mgum town. So I can see the names, and I can see the roads and the distribution of and how the households, so I'm very sure this is Mgum Serengeti. This is Mgum town. So I'm going back to my background setting. I'm clicking it, and then I'm choosing the very recent imagery, which is a Maxa Premium imagery, and I'm selecting.
Okay, Herry, sorry. So can you show people the tasking manager? Because I think it might be a bit confusing about which background imagery to use. So we use the Humanitarian's OpenStreetMap tasking manager. Could you get that up on your screen? So
yeah.
this is a tool that, so basically it takes an area that we want to particularly focus on mapping, and it divides it into different sections. So people can choose a particular section to map, and then it has instructions about exactly which background imagery to use and what to add, etc. And also it's a two-stage process, because it allows one person would map it, and then a more advanced mapper would validate it or check it. So if you can go to one of the projects
Sure.
on the tasking manager, I'm suggesting that this one looks quite good. So the link is there. Herry, I've put it in the chat, 10700, because that's a buildings task. So can you demonstrate that?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. just like what Janet was explaining about the tasking manager, is the place where there is some project that that they distributed for mapping, and some of the project that for need for validation. So it's the place where you can, I mean, the managers can track your work and some validate the project. So it's the place where people contribute in other ways for different level. There is a beginner mapper, there is advanced mapper, and there is intermediate mapper. So also to be able to access a tasking manager, you should have an OpenStreetMap account. So maybe this is the project that Janet shared with us in the link. So we'll have to go to login. I will have to go to login into my tasking manager to be able to contribute in this project. So it's the project from Tanzania Development Trust. And after login, okay. Here also there are some instruction that what you need to do in this project. If you try to read this, it's a Tanzania Development Trust, this Buzungu Mara village, and so it has some information about the project and what is needed to be done and what the purpose of this project also, and the person who created the project. And then after reading all of those, you can go to place on contribute button. I'm placing contribute button, and it's give you some instruction like the project specific mapping note. So you will be advised to use Maxa imagery. And they say if Maxa imagery as clouds, please use Bing imagery, and please trace building from the satellite image. So the instruction is all over the place. So, and even so, after reading all the instruction, you will have to choose the project that you need to map. I will just zoom in into my right hand side projects, and I will select one, and I select this project, and it will tell me which editor you want to use it. So I will just go with ID editor. In the bottom side, you will see in the center here, you will see the editor that I'm choosing. I'm choosing ID editor. I will select ID editor, and then I will press or click on the map selected task, and then I will click. Okay, so it's gonna take some second, and here I am. Okay, so this is it pink or violet? Violet boundary is show the area that I'm supposed to map. This is the area that I've given instruction to map from the mapping tasking manager. So what does it need to be mapped here are buildings and some roads. So I will zoom to the area. Okay, before that, I have three tools. I have point, I have line, and I have area. So if I want to map the building, I will select an area. If I want to map the linear features, maybe like a road or a stream or a river, I will go with a line, okay? And if I want to show the location of the place and word and add some point features, I will go with point. So let me start with an area. I will select, after I'm zooming out and reach the level that I can clearly see the building clearly, I will go and select area. After selecting area, I will.
So in this task, sorry, Herry, in this task we're only doing buildings, and people might find it a bit easier to zoom in a little bit more to make sure that you get the area right.
Okay, so Okay, so I want to make sure if my building are really clearly seen out there, because can you see this building that I'm just mapping right now?
Yep.
Okay, and then after drawing this building here, I will go to select the building tag. And yes, since my drawing wasn't very squared, I will create the Q button to just make my building very squared. I will click Q, and you will see that my building are well squared. After that,
Please make sure that you always square the buildings, because validators
have to
get very upset otherwise.
and this, yeah. And after drawing that, I will go to save. I will place save, and then I will come to this side, left hand side. I will upload the features that I've mapped, which is building. So then I've added one feature, which is building, and then I'm going to other features, which is building in this project. Since they want us to map only building, I'm trying to, okay, here is another building that I can map. I'm zooming it in, and so that I can visualize the points of this building clearly. And then I'm starting putting a corner point, right click, and this, and then this, double click here to finish. And then I'm going to select building, and then I'm placing Q squared, and then I'm checking yes. And I'm going to this building also. I'm taking the tag of area. I'm taking this corner point, and this corner point, and this one. Double clicking at the end. Then I'm selecting this is the building, and placing Q to make sure it's well squared from my keyboard. And then I'm checking it out, and then I'm saving it. Pressing save, and then I'm uploading the features that I've just edited. I mean, are we together in this?
Thank
Do
you.
we all follow?
Any questions?
Yeah, Janet, I have a question. So I have actually two questions. So how do you decide, Janet and Herry, how do you decide which area to map? Or is that dependent on the digital champions?
Okay, so you're asking where do we decide to do a task in the humanitarian OpenStreetMap tasking manager?
Yeah, how do you start? So if you have an area that's not mapped, you know,
yeah,
where do you start with that area?
We've basically, we started with the areas around Mugumu. That was the first task that we did, but we've done that one now. So we are basically trying to map all of the unmapped areas in Tanzania. Okay. So we actually got some data from Gates Foundation that tells us more or less where the missing buildings are, so that we have some idea of the places that really need to still be mapped. So that's how we set up the tasks on the tasking manager.
Okay. And then when you have an area that you're mapping, like what Herry is showing us now, do you always start with the buildings first and map that, and then move out to the roads and the streets and the rest? So is there sort of a set sequence in what you are following?
It depends on who's doing it. So basically, if people are new to mapping, then we start with buildings, because buildings are more straightforward. Because when you add roads, then you're supposed to tag them with the kind of road that they are, whether it's residential or unclassified or so on. So it's slightly more complicated. So generally, the first time people get started with mapping, generally we start with buildings. But so this is, we're doing this via the tasking manager, which is how we do mapping for remote mappers, i.e. people who are not actually within Tanzania. So when people are, for example, with the digital champions would not do mapping like this. They would be using maps.me on their phone, adding their local knowledge using their phone's GPS. But it's much, much easier for them to do that if the base map is already made. Because if you're just looking at a white screen that has no buildings, no roads, it's very difficult to add say this is where the pharmacy is, this is where the clinic is. So really they're trying to add their knowledge on top of a base map that has the roads and the buildings already added.
Well, this has given me a complete new appreciation of maps and GPS capability. There's a question from Anne-Marie as well in the chat.
Okay, so to make it square, you're pressing the Q button. Herry, do you want to just demonstrate that again? And you don't have to do the course. I mean, so if you join the Slack, there are some instructions and so on, and there is a link to a quiz. That's in the Slack group that I put the link to. You don't have to do that first, but you can do if you want to.
Yeah, I can really repeat that for the purpose of all to understand. Okay, let's say this is the building that I want to map. I will go to area tag and I will start drawing the corner points of the buildings. Then double click at the end. And then after I've done with this, I will go to building tag. I will select a building tag. So after selecting the building tag, that's where you can click on Q on your keyboard. You click Q to make sure this the building is well squared. So I'm clicking Q, and you will see, and there is a message that the corner point are now squared. And after that, I will accept this tick, okay? And then I will go to save and upload my change set.
Thank you. So you don't have to do upload after every building, but if you have very good connectivity, it's a good idea. Herry, I think you can also do right click as well to do the quest. Do you want to show that on a different building?
Sure.
So if you do right click, you get a menu up that includes screen.
Yeah, sure. So let's say maybe this, let me go to this building here. This building are very small. So let me draw very small building, sorry. And double click. So if I place a right click, but I mean, if I select this and do a right click button, there are so many options here. There is an option of cycle rise, and there is an option to move. There is also an option to square. There is an option to flip short. There is an option to flip long. There is an option to rotate. There is an option to copy the building, and there is an option to delete. So if you are not really familiar with the pressing Q something, you will have, after drawing your features as a building, you will have to select that. You will have to right click on it, and this option will come. So if you select this move button, I mean, the building will I will be able to move this building to these features to another area, maybe this. So let me press it here. Then if I right click again, I will have to, I can select maybe this rotate to make sure the building is really aligned with the feature this way. And if I want to square it, I will just place this and it will be squared. So that's another way of doing this. So I will have to select this. Now this has to be a building. Let me go back. Yes, this building. And yeah.
Thank you.
Any question? Thank you. And then I will. Any question, please ask. And then let me just finish from this side. Okay, if you have a time, you can really complete the area to map the whole area. And if you don't have a time, but you just have like 10 minutes to just map, here is where you have to fill all the detail, like the completions, task status. Is this task completely mapped? If you map the area you finish all the building around the boundary, you will say yes. If you really didn't finish like me, I will go to no. Maybe if the image was bad and they told you to use Maxa, but the Maxa was bad and you used Bing, but the Bing also was bad, you will come to this category and select the imagery was bad. So you will have to put a comment here. Maybe I mapped buildings by using Maxa. So this makes it easy for validator to just know, okay, so this person mapped this area by using this background type of image. So it could be very easy for validator to use this appropriate background imagery to do some validation. And then after that, you will have to submit your task. That is the way to do some mapping by using tasking manager. I'm inviting question if there is any, so that we can proceed.
Another question. So whenever you do mapping, whether it's just a building or piece of a road, does it always have to be validated by somebody?
Well, if you do it using the tasking manager, it's a two-stage process. Okay. So you take a square, somebody maps it, and then somebody validates it. But what you were looking at the beginning, just looking directly into OpenStreetMap, then you can do editing directly into OpenStreetMap, and then it isn't automatically validated. But there are many people that who are doing automatic checks on OpenStreetMap all the time. So for example, if you did something really crazy, like, I don't know, change the name of your town, you would find that somebody would change it back very quickly because there are a lot of checking processes in place. But generally we do the remote mapping this way via the tasking manager, because also if you have, so for example, if we do a mapathon that has maybe 100 people in it, and we're saying we want to map this area, if you have 100 people all editing at the same time, it could be very confusing because people could get mixed up and so on. So this is why we use the tasking manager, because you can direct people to map a specific place, but also you can have a more control because you can set up the validation to go with it.
Okay. So Janet, another question. The areas around the two safe houses in Butiama and Mugumu, how much of that have been mapped already and how much still has to be mapped? So the geographical reach that Hope for Girls potentially has that mostly been mapped, or are there still vast areas that needs mapping?
Well, it depends what you mean by how it's mapped. I mean, because so for example, most of the buildings and major roads will have been mapped, but there is still and most or probably all of the major villages have been added. But obviously, mapping is a continual process. So there are still things that are missing. So, for example, not every school will be already mapped, not every shop, not every clinic and so on necessarily. So it's an ongoing process. But because those are the areas where we first started, generally, the roads and the buildings should have been mapped. But obviously things change. I mean, people build new buildings, so they would not necessarily be mapped. And also the satellite imagery that we're using, it varies in age. So sometimes it can be older than others. So generally it will be several years old. So buildings that have been added more recently wouldn't necessarily appear.
Okay. Thanks.
Welcome. How are people doing? Has everybody managed to get onto the tasking manager and find themselves a task?
With my technical capabilities, it will need more than one session to understand this completely. So I managed to find where we live, but I'll need a little bit more help to be able to get this going. But I think this is fascinating. And it's certainly something that I would love to learn more about. And this has been a wonderful introduction to this really essential service.
Great. Well, I mean, I think the best, so if people are interested in continuing with this, I would really encourage you to join the Slack channel and post your, contribute to there. There is a channel that is specifically for people to ask questions, so and to get feedback on your mapping. So you can say, I've just been into this task, this is my username, and somebody will give you some feedback. And also if you have any questions, you can add them there. So I would really encourage people to join the Slack. And also if you have family members or or colleagues who are interested, please feel free to share this with them and encourage them to get started. And particularly if you know of students who might be interested in setting up a youth mapper group. So I don't know if Courtney's still here, if she wants to say, I think she might have left. So youth mappers are, as she mentioned, they're a international group of student-run mapping societies, clubs in universities and colleges, and they have a lot of activities and opportunities for students, for internships, for scholarships and so on. So if you know of any students who are remotely interested in mapping, I would really ask them to check it out. It's pretty straightforward to set up a chapter.
This is possibly something that we can look at for the Antwerp International School, because they are interested in the project, and somebody spoke to me a while ago, a few weeks ago, about what they can do. I'll talk to her a little bit more and see whether this is something that they would be interested in, because it's something that you can do remotely. You don't have to be physically together to be able to do this, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's also useful, especially now with this COVID, pandemic going on too, because people can still participate and contribute even if they're not together in one place.
Absolutely, yes. So our mappers are from all around the world. So yeah, I mean it's a really great community.
And about how many people do you actually have mapping at one time, possibly through this tasking manager, at least?
Oh, I
Just an idea.
don't know. I mean,
Is
it would vary a lot depending
Depending on
on
time. Yeah.
what is happening and so on. But that's an interesting question.
Is it like in the tens or is it in the hundreds or?
At any one time? No, I would say
Yeah.
I would think it would be in the thousands.
Really? Wow. Okay. Gosh, that's great.
I mean, if you're in the tasking manager at the front screen, if you go down, it shows you like how many people have mapped. Can you see the contributors to this project and so on?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, obviously, this is one project, and there are thousands of projects. So.
Yeah,
Because I
true.
mean, many
Yeah.
organisations are using this as a, people like Red Cross and MSF and so on, and even some big companies now are starting to use OpenStreetMap for their base maps. People like Facebook and Amazon and Microsoft and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and if you look at OpenStreetMap for Germany, there's a really strong OpenStreetMap community in Germany.
Mm.
They even do things like mapping inside stations and so on.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so there will be some OpenStreetMap events certainly there would have been OpenStreetMap events in many German cities. I mean, they're probably online now. But in London, we have Missing Maps events the first Tuesday of every month, and obviously they're online now. So if people are interested in coming to an online event for those, I can also share the links.
Well, I think that would be interesting to do, because this to me is has truly just given such a different perspective of the importance of mapping and the work that you're doing and the work that the digital champions are doing. I think it's also will be interesting to add a tiny bit about this in an upcoming bulletin. But Janet, if you have any upcoming meetings, yeah, just share it with me, and we can share it with the Falco community to see if there's anybody that would be interested.
Okay, well, I mean, as I said, they're Missing Maps meetings, so they're generally run by MSF and Red Cross. So it would be mapping probably a place in, I don't know, depends, Yemen, or that needs mapping for their work or something like that. But yes, I can do.
Okay.
I mean, the process is exactly the same.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Are there any other questions from anybody? Because I don't want to use too much of your time, Janet and Herry. Anne-Marie, Ayushka, Heidi.
No, I just, I found this really useful. It was great to actually watch and see how you do it, since I've heard so much about it. So I appreciate you taking the time to tell us more about it and to show us exactly how you do it too. So thank you.
You're welcome. So as I said, please do join the Slack if you're interested, and carry on mapping if you like. So I think I'll stop the recording there.